Greetings to you all our dear viewers. Welcome to the Holy Drive. I am Jimmy Hanks. It's been a while when I'm not appearing. Had a lot that has been happening in my life. Before I go very far, I want to extend my sincere appreciation to each and everyone that stood with me when I lost my father. It was a trying moment for me and also the entire family. But I want to appreciate my OBs and OGs from different schools, from Kampala Parent School, from Tare, from SMAC, from Maryland, from KU. Thank you so much for being there for me in those trying moments. And of course, my family, my relatives, my friends, my workmates at U24, I appreciate you so much for being there for me when I lost my dad the other few weeks back. And you know, by the grace of God, I'll go through this moment. And on this very point, I'll take a small moment of silence to honor my fallen dad. May your soul keep resting in eternal peace. Anyways, tonight we are honored to be hosting an amazing gentleman, a servant of God, human activist. He is, I don't know where to start from, but the titles are so many. But he's a doctor, he's a pastor, he's an activist, as I've already said. Eita Police Waba Pastor. Not him, but they call him Police Waba Pastor. He'll explain to us where that name comes from, the genesis of Police Waba Pastor. He's also the lead pastor at Makere Community Church, and he was raised up by a single mother. He will tell us more about that. How was that journey of being raised up by a single mother? Today we are seeing him as a powerful servant of God. How has the journey been from the day he was born until now? I can't mention all that he has done, but I'll just take a small break and I'll bring him on board. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor once again to introduce to you the guest I have for you tonight. You're welcome, Pastor.
Mr. Jimmy
Shemeza. A.K. Jimmy Hanks.
Jimmy Hanks.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad that I can join you on this show. I'm equally part of the team that commend you and sympathize with you at the loss of your father. Yeah, I apologize. I'm sorry about that. The Bible says, mourn with those who mourn, weep with those who weep, and be happy when people are happy. Yeah. So in that way, I just want you to know we express our sympathies to you too. But I thank you for hosting me on your show.
Thank you too for giving us that conducive environment. You've hosted us. The hospitality is really good. We are taking some coffee, moved around the house.
Yeah.
I feel like staying here, spending a night
You should
here.
come. You should come. We do have a guest house. I also host people. My goal, I see myself as a mentor of next generation of leaders. And that takes time. That takes people visiting, talking, learning, asking questions together. So I'll be glad to host you. Maybe at some point you can organize a time to visit.
I love the environment, the trees. You're like in your own world, in short. You're away from the city.
Well, it does. It takes, my wife and I moved over here. It came out of a distress. Well, not so much of a distress. Back in 2002, 2003, when we had our children and they were young, our work is mostly serving God and reaching university students at Makere. But we were renting, we didn't have a chaplaincy, and that's something I'd like to talk about, why we do need a born-again chaplaincy at Makere. So what we kept looking for places to stay, and it was difficult, life was difficult in terms of raising children in a place where there's no infrastructure. So the last place we lived was half London. That's right across from KIU, where you were part of that university. You told me you studied there. So as Half London grew, I guess it used to be a hotel, then it was turned into a university. As it grew, the university, took over. So it was a mixture of a university, clubs, and shops, and dormitories, and parties, and it was noisy. And then, but when we would go to try and get to play with the children, Daddy wants to play with the kids.
I know.
Daddy wants to play basketball in the evening when you've come home. You want to take your boys and do something fun. But we'll go to Sharing Hall. There's a team playing there in Zambia. You would go to the basketball court of KIU. There's already professionals using it. So you just stand there on the side like a dad with a kid, and you're like, where do I go? Isn't there a place where parents can take their children to have recreation? Wow. So it was born out of that frustration, Jimmy, that we began feeling like Kampala had not actually gone ahead with planning for recreation, for life of family people, for children's parks, for libraries. It wasn't. So I tried very much, I should say, to talk to Kampala City Council. I put together a group of people that included Fred Mwesije, is my good friend. There was also, we had Mr. Tobani, is an Indian brother from Masaka. We approached Buganda Kingdom and asked for land. We approached City Council, but eventually was disappointed. That is because most of the land that had been gazetted for children's parks in Kampala were taken over for the interest of petrol stations, shopping malls, bus stations. For example, where Arua Park is, that was gazetted as a children's library. Where you have, where you have the malls at Kamwacha and famous restaurant whose name I will not say, over there in Kamwacha. That land was also gazetted for a children's park. It's very, small leftover. And Centenary Park was gazetted for recreation of the citizens, but it's now taken over by shops. So when we looked at the city, increasing traffic, my wife thought, hey, why don't we move to Entebbe? Entebbe is extremely expensive. I could not afford that. But I had a single visit to a pastor friend of mine who lives not far from here, who was Pastor Gerard Mwebe of Streams of Life. He owns property, his ministry, in Ngongolo, Sisa side. And when I visited that place, Jimmy, it was eye-opening. A single visit can change your paradigm.
It does, definitely.
A single out of your natural, normal place, which is why it's important to go out, go visit. And you guys can visit it over here. You have a different paradigm. My wife and I decided to say, look, we're going to get out of the city. We're going to get out of Kampala. Yeah, there's a price to pay. But, later, about, 10 years from now, as the roads are constructed, I know you had to go through dust.
I'm telling
as
you.
the roads are built, I believe, roads are going to be constructed. In about 5 to 10 years from now, they'll be building a bridge across from Entebbe, from Buaya to Nachiwogo. Okay, they're going to do a suspended bridge that will connect Entebbe to this side, crossing to Mpiji. Then they're going to build a road from Chisubi, going through Sisa, coming to Nakauka to, again, this side. That's going to connect us, and we're going to be connected to the bypass.
Hopefully next time we shall come when the road is tarmacked, hopefully.
No, I will actually, you disabuse yourself of that idea. Jimmy, you need to be willing to go through the dust.
Yes, and I enjoyed it actually.
You need to go through.
I enjoyed it actually.
And I will explain to you more. I'll give you more information that your people can help you. Your mind will be better as a result of this. I was living in Bunga after Half London. We moved to Bunga and near the lake. And it was time for me to build a house. We had bought some land using borrowed money at Muyenga. from the late Sebalu. He's a Uganda lawyer, very good man. But right there at the quarry, we had a nice piece of land. And I wanted to build, but the income of a pastor just could not make it. We just couldn't.
I know.
If you have a church where students are your church members, there's not too much. University students. You know what I'm saying, Jim?
From that pocket money.
Yeah. So I remember, this point is important. I remember seeing that in front of me was Pastor Kayanja. He had a house. Pastor Gary Skinner, he had a house. Pastor Komagum, he had a house next to the lake. And there was a piece of land next to them that was available for sale. So I said, look, I want to be a pastor like them. I'd like to have a house on the beach. Isn't that great? So I went and I asked the owner of the land. And I said, look, I'd like to buy this land. So I built a house. I recall the fellow told me that land was going, an acre was 300 million shillings. Now that was 2006, 2007. Okay, 300 million today is about $100,000. So at that time it was probably $200,000, something like that. I said, gosh, where does anyone get that money from?
It was like a dream.
I mean, an absolute impossibility. Impossible. So I did some homework. Then I said, who owns this land? They told, oh, it's an old Muganda family. One of the old, Baganda people who have money there in Kampala, businessman. So I said, I asked two questions. How much more land does he have apart from this? Oh, he has like 20 acres. And whenever he's sending his children, he cuts off an acre. He sends a child to England and what and what. I said, Then I said, when did he buy that land? This is very important. You have to slow down. I was told he bought this land in 1980-81, in the midst of a war, in the midst of turbulence,
I know.
When nobody could go there. It was a Chitogo, unwanted. It's middle of war, and he bought like 20 or 30 acres and kept what? Quiet. Now, that was 1982 when he bought it. Now, at this time, this was 2007. How many years later is that? Because from 82, that's 10 to 90, to 90 to 2000, that's what?
My math wasn't.
No, yeah, 90 to 2000, that's almost 20. Yeah, it's almost 20 years later. Now, development has come. And he's selling 1 acre at an amount that he's quite happy. You know what I decided? I said, you know what? That's a paradigm shift. I got to change. I no longer wanted to be to have a part of Kampala. I grew up in Masaka, and you always want to have a part of Kampala. You want to have a part of Kampala. You want to have a small part of Kampala. And I remember when the condominium law was passed, they were selling flats in Kololo. And I really wanted to buy a flat condominium from a civil servant in Kololo. And my wife says, no, I don't want it. I don't want to. When you're in condominium, everybody, your neighbor above and your neighbor below knows your business. Yeah, if you quarrel with each other that night, everybody knows. So my wife says, I don't want anybody to know my business. Where will my children play? What? So eventually I gave up the idea of having a part of Kampala or Kololo, and we decided that we would actually move out. Wow. So we came out this side back in 2000. I think we sold everything we had and came this side. That's where we built our home. So we're waiting, 20 years from now, when development catches up with us, and then a young man like Jimmy comes and says, I want also to buy an acre there. Then they tell you, how much is it? Then they give you a number, and then you're like, hey, but when did that Mugaga come? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand.
Because most people want to come when the road is ready, when the water is there, when electricity is there. We don't have water here, national water, so we have to have our own rainwater. And I like that idea that we are self-independent. We don't have electricity here. We use solar. And I like the idea that I don't have to pay Yaka You understand?
I do. You save.
You save. And all of that. You have to store your water. So there's challenges and also opportunities. So that's a long answer to tell our story of how we ended up here.
Wow.
And then also what young people must do in thinking about the future. The future is not, in terms of estate, is not in Kampala, is not in the capital city. You can't afford it. You cannot afford
expensive.
to get something substantive.
You don't age, by the way. Before I go very factual, you still look young. It's the secret. I've seen you for decades, but you're still the same. You don't change.
Tuchikuba man, tuchikuba. Temutujao, mumulembe tugugwenda. Age to age.
Okera mujibu.
Well, I think being a pastor of young people at Makerere, part of the requirement, you have to keep on with the times, yeah? You know, like I used to wear ties. The last time you find me with a tie, about when did I wear a suit? I only wear suits when I'm either going to court or looking for a bank loan or whatever. But you have to dress like your people.
Abantu was pastors when no kwambara red, yellow, you know those shouting colors. Remember the tie, you know? This now is servant. Those shiny shoes.
Yeah.
Black shoes, eh?
No, that model.
You see that, pastor.
You see that model is not inherently Ugandan. People are photocopying TD Jakes, you know. People trying to be like TD Jakes. People trying to be like who?
Pastor Chris.
No, you got to be yourself. You got to be yourself. You got to be authentic. Look, it is better to be authentic than a pretender. It's better to be. I remember being entering showbiz for the first time back in 1986, 87. I was doing a show on Star FM at UBC with a fellow called Karim Brown. I'd just been a champion of breakdance, and I got a chance to do a gig on radio.
You began from Namilyango, right?
Yeah, Namilyango. I was Rubaga Boys.
You know how to play, you know how to dance Jabba? You know Jabba?
I don't know what Jabba means, but...
Some dance for... I think it came from Smack, the likes of Roger Mugisha, the ones who began that dance. Those years,
now
like Kips.
Roger now is younger than me. Now, me, I'm from the breakdance era.
You're old.
Oh, yeah. So I decided, but basically what I was trying to say is I was a celebrity without money. It's terrible to be a big DJ. Mwana ngoli ku radio, oli ku TV bakulaba, ninga toyina sente za motoka yo. Otula mu taxi. It's such a schizophrenia. You're trying to act something that you are not. In the end, you know, and I remember trying to be proud. You know, you see these musicians, Tambula zimba zimba man, azimba zimba, alinganga, you know.
Nenga talina
man. Ate kada ba UBC engeri je bansasula man. Maybe it's different now. Now then in 1986, I remember I waited for my salary. Jimmy. Nalindirira salary yange nga manyi ngenda chikuba. Now the day I received my salary, yes. You know what I did? I went, I bought coffee, ate mandazi, the thing was finished.
So Pastor Ssempa, where are you born from?
So I became a simple man. I'm like, let's just be woli. What chikuba?
Government
yeah, government, yeah, SEmpa. Let me serve. So I was born in Masaka, Nalozari, to a mother, Muganda, and my father, who I never got to know, very likely was an Indian.
Oh.
Yeah. So my father was a student at Makerere. He fell in love with my mother. They had a relationship which was not supposed to happen. And when my mother conceived me, my mother was told that she should abort. And that because Indians do not marry Ugandans or Africans.
Yeah.
So that was 1968, 69. It was I was born in conflict, Jimmy. I was born in conflict. And I think God has a way in which he prepares people that I'm not really so afraid of conflict because I was born in conflict. I was born between two groups of people that were fighting each other. My Baganda, African family, were fighting the Indians, and they threw them out in 71. So But I never got to know my dad. I'm still searching. I'm actually right now trying to search. Last weekend I was visiting Mr. Tobani, Owechitiwa Tobani, trying to ask about my dad. The week before I was at Makerere, trying to look at the books from 65 to 70. What are the names of the Indian students that were there from Masaka? It's exciting, it's sad, it's interesting. It's a race against time. I don't know if he's still alive. Yeah, so that's where I'm from, Masaka, and I migrated to Kampala because my oldest brother from my mom had 7 children before she had me. I'm number 8.
The last born.
Yeah, I'm the last born.
Like me, wow.
My mother was a single teacher. Was a teacher, school teacher from Naluzali, Dorothy Namuli. And yeah, I'm from Masaka, but I came to Kampala. Go ahead.
You began schooling from Masaka?
Yeah, I did.
Kampala. Which school were you in Masaka?
Many. Because my mother was a teacher, whenever she shifted, I would shift. So she was in Naluzali, Chimanya, Chitovu, Chalusowe. Nachikubira amasomero mangi awo. P1, P2, you know, around there. Then I came to Kampala P3.
While growing up, as a young little boy, raised by a mother, how was life?
I was tough. You know, in Idi Amin's first days were good because the economy was okay. As the more and more days passed, it became harder. But, you know, the 8 years of Idi Amin were relatively extremely safe. Some of the safest years I've had before Museveni's latter years. So growing up was fun. I came to Kampala in P3 because my brother was a policeman in Zambia Police Barracks. Dixon Mbuga, he was a police traffic. So I lived in the police barracks from 1973 to 1981. Life in barracks makes you hard, but it also builds you friendship with tribal. I mean, there is no other place where there's so much integration than police barracks. But so I learned to live with Basoga, Banyankore, Ateso, Kumam, you know, Acholi, and I speak many of those languages.
You can try?
Yes.
Meet someone in that language.
Mizte, ora Bugich, Ningo, Kobango, Ngomatia Kative, Itiemongo, Afoyo, Ealamano, Akirobie, Jahona. Eyalama, ejoke deke. So, by the way, I do love learning languages. I just learned Swahili. I do a little bit, but I took time in the last 3 years or 4 years to teach myself Swahili.
That's good.
I got a Bible which has both English and Swahili. It's a doctor duo language. Because I knew the content in English, I tried to figure it out in Luganda.
I know. So
in Swahili. So it gave me foundation to start learning Swahili. I love Swahili. When I speak Swahili, I don't want to talk any other language.
That's good. You can easily go to other countries around East Africa.
No. When I talk to God in Swahili, I can pray longer than in English. This English is very, very limited. Extremely limited.
Yeah, even the grammar.
Yeah, for example, if you say the sword of the Spirit, it's part of the prayer portion. Sword of the Spirit. I have never seen a sword. Maybe when I was in police barracks, marching band, is when I've seen a sword. Okay, maybe read it in novels. But in Swahili, upanga wa kiroho. I have seen a panga. When we have battles, we remove out what? Jambi and ikaba. Kati now, the construction of an African, by the way, the intellectual construction of an African's mindset is built in your local native language. And a lot of us speak English and we think we've understood, but we've not comprehended. But you've talked, you've heard, but there's a part of you that has not been touched. Which is why whenever we sing our African music, man, we hit. You can see in church, when people sing in their local language, chukuba. Then sing English. When you speak English, Hillsong type, movie style. So having reflected on this issue, we need to communicate to people in the language where their dictionary of their mind was constructed. Talking about sword, which you've never seen, keeps you on an abstract level. But talking about pangas, which you've seen and know, takes you to a concrete level. And this is part of the reason why Africans, Ugandans, there's a disconnect between us and our education.
Yeah, that's
between us and there's a part of us that has not been touched and reached.
That's true, Pastor Ssempa. So back to our discussion. While growing up, Pastor, I've heard your story. You have 7 children, had a single mother. Could mommy put bread on the table? How was survival?
It was good at the beginning, but it was tough at the end. And at the beginning it was okay in terms of the economy. But as the economy went down in the later 80s, later 70s. But I got to say with Idi Amin, look, this is not to make anyone feel bad, but I was in police children's school, and every break time, all of us would get a packet of milk. Mwana nga tukikuba. Buli mwana asoma ku ssomero. Free! What are you talking about? Free ng'ekimotoka kijja ne bajjayo paketi za crate za amata. Was green. Idi Amin ordered every child must have nutritional support. Wow,
that was good. So you survived.
No, the salaries were okay, but I think as the economic war came in later in 77, 78, then the war of the 80s, total disruption, was extremely difficult. So I grew up with challenges, you know. I know life without food. I know life when you are really challenged as a child of a single mother. School fees, all my life, I was always dismissed.
How were you studying back then? You went to good schools, I saw. I was trying to read through your
my best school was my high school. My mother I went to, you know, I was in Zambia, St. Peter's, Police Children, Zambia, St. Peter's, then Rubaga Boys. Then for my high school, I went to Namilyango. I consider myself to have been lucky. It was the blessing of God. My mom, she went, it's a poor lady, she went to Rubaga because we were Catholic. She went and talked to the bishop and said, oh, mwana wange. Now, I was smart, but I was not top smart. In these top schools, Chisubi, Gayaza, Namilyango, whatever at the time, King's College, you have to be two. You have to be in two groups. You either have to be super smart, genius type levels, or two, you are a child of a minister. I was neither. I was not super smart, neither was I a child of a what? I was there in the mid. I was good, but I was not a no. I was not. I was good if I put my effort, but I was not the top one. We had a guy called Michael Honoria. He's a lawyer now. What a brilliant guy, man. Followed by Mao Nobat, in Namilyango. The guys were sharp, but Honoria was like a computer. Their kids like computer. Michael would sit. We were doing arts. Michael, number one, organized all his papers meticulously. Handwriting like a computer. You look at her handwriting like chicken. Organization of his papers, meticulously organized. Timetable management. Michael was always timetable managed. This thing is going to take me 1 hour, 2 hours. You look at his notes. He's got the blue pen for the notes, then red for going through evenings. The guy orderly. He would sit there quietly, play with his hair. Kati, him for preps, Michael would use only his time. We had preps like at 8, 8 to about 10, 7:30 to about 9:30, whatever, and then chapel, and then he never spent too much time. There would be what we call, for some of us would do extra prep. Put water in the bucket. Extension. Put water in the bucket. Put your feet there. Sit until 1 o'clock. Look.
Or you could be dozing past.
I'm telling you. I have to say, Jimmy, listen. Whenever we would do the tests, Michael Honoria, consistent, 90, 95, 100, 90. The guy who spends 1 hour in his what? Revision. Now, us.
Who extend up to 1 in the night?
55, 65, if you are lucky, 70. I learned that there are people who God has gifted. You know, Michael is one of those. Mao Nobody is also very smart, but okay, it's bad to compare. But Michael is genius. He went on to Cambridge. I think he went on to Oxford. He went to Makerere, struck first class. Okay. Then he went to one of the, I think either Oxford or Cambridge. I'm so proud of him. Very quiet fellow. You don't need, but it's still extremely brilliant.
Wow.
So I was not genius level.
You're a survivor.
Number two, I was not of a child of a minister, but my mom was just a teacher. But listen, what happened? My mother went to Rubaga, and when I finished senior 4 and said, my son has passed well, but he can't go into a good school. Vichi, can you help? It happened that bishop had just been appointed the head board of governors of Namilyango.
Wow.
And he was just beginning his term. And then in Namilyango, they had just brought a new headmaster, Pilgrim Chivuka, who I think had come from Nabumali or something like that. And he was also new on the job. Now, when the bishop wrote a letter from Rubaga and said, look, I'm recommending Martin Ssempa, what, for you to admit him, see if you can admit him. The moment that letter landed at Pilgrim Chivuka's desk, he realized that this, as I look back, this is the first time my board of governor is what? Writing to me. Oh, he was so happy to receive the letter. And of course, you know, big people talking to big people. Then I became profiled as a child of the bishop.
Wow.
Even though I had troubles there, they would always call me and say, now, you, Ssempa, what is your relationship with the bishop? Now, of course, for me, I'm a bit dramatic. If I know you are going to fire me, I remember one time I dropped the key. I was the entertainment prefect in Namilyango. And I forgot during holiday, I went off with the key. So then when they are supposed to have a meeting, they could not find the key to the conference hall. Forget it. So then I was in a lot of trouble. They want to dismiss me. Then during a tribunal, they said, now tell us, what is your relationship with this bishop? Of course, Nangi, Kampala Sibizimbe. I had to recognize, okay, what is the power I have here? These guys, if I say bad, they're going to throw me out of school. So I said, teacher, come. I said, if I tell you that the bishop is my father and I'm his illegitimate son, will you tell others? So now the guy looked at me. He was confused. He wasn't sure if I was right or wrong. He said, you go. I survived being dismissed. So anyway, that's how I got into Namilyango. Wow. I enjoyed, being with the children of the rich in Uganda, the sons of the ministers and the geniuses.
Where did you go last holiday? I went to Dubai, UK.
No, I was a champ at that time. I'd become a breakdance champion of East Africa. Nanga nchikuba 85, 86 I entered into a breakdance competition just by coincidence. I like people dancing, but I didn't have money to pay for the entrance. So I was compelled to go and sign up as a dancer, thinking that my being a member on the list will allow me a chance to enter so I can watch for free. But then when I told my friend in senior 2, Moses Nekion, hey Moses, I have signed up for this. He's like, what? I know breakdance, I'll teach you. So he began giving me a crash course in what? Breakdance. Long story short, next time the show came in, I was there, but I did focus more on presentation, not so much the technical.
Wow.
Then I went on to become not only Uganda's breakdance champion, I became East Africa's breakdance champion. And so when I was in Namilyango, though I didn't come from the family of the rich, neither was I a genius, but I had social capital now. And I even became the entertainment what? Mwana tichikuba, nganze ndeta music.
Didn't you have?
We had prom, of course. You bring girls from Navisunsa and girls from Namagunga. What Gayaza? You fall in love. You have crushes. What? So good.
In fact, writing mails.
Yeah, writing. No, there's no mails. Writing letters. Our love letters was good. But one of the things that I want to say, Jimmy, is that we need to gender balance many of these single-sex schools. Yeah, I really think we need to change because of the problem of homosexuality that has come in, the intrusion of bad boys entering in, and an industry of corrupting public morals. There is necessity, and one of my campaigns is we need to gender balance.
Yeah, we shall come
schools
to that towards the end of the show. I have that.
Why do we do it at the end of the show?
No, in the middle of the show.
Ah, no.
Talk about
Look, I want you to tell you there's what's called asymmetrical. Yes. Asymmetrical is when you fight a battle which is not linear, that you meet from A, B, C, D. Okay? When you fight an enemy who is asymmetrical, they involve drones, that involves marine, it involves air, it involves forest, it involves different methods. That's asymmetrical. Yes. Now, when you deal with the issue of homosexuality and others, it is asymmetrical. Also, too, for me, I'm an asymmetrical person. Why? Jimmy, most people think that a pastor is your typical, let us pray, wearing a robe. I'm not your typical, hey, I went to Bible school. I went to Bible school here. No. One, I am a PhD in public health. I'm a master's of science in counseling and psychology. I'm an HIV/AIDS specialist for 30 years. I'm a breakdance champion of East Africa. I'm an environmentalist, conserving trees and forests. I'm a farmer. I like to grow crops. I'm experimenting, teaching people. I am a community development person. I like playing guitar. I'm learning Swahili. I'm a linguist. I'm a Pan-Africanist. I want to go into modeling now. I just applied to be a... No, katikwete mukowa. No, mumugamba bechiwala tebakola modeling. I'm a model. Okay, I like to do modeling. I'm a broadcaster. I'm a policy. I write policies. I'm a consultant. Recently, I've just been doing stop buffering. I'm an expert in cyber fraud.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, I'm an expert in cyber fraud. So when you meet some people, there are others who are linear. Me, I'm asymmetrical.
And that's good. On that note, Pastor, yesterday, it was yesterday, the head of the nation, the president of Uganda, talked about homosexuality. And I've also been trying to follow that story. Of recent, if I'm not mistaken, some of the prominent, I don't know how I can describe them, church leaders came out to support homosexuality. It has become a discussion everywhere. We are seeing cases in schools of homosexuality. And people are coming out to defend such kind of weird, I don't know how I can describe it, because I don't support it, so I'm against it. Such kind of immoral, I don't know how I can describe it, it's so evil, if I may say. So as a servant of God, or as a minister, how prepared are you to keep our children safe, to preach this gospel, so that we can save our generation? Otherwise, we are gone. I'm seeing people wedding. How can I wed a fellow man? It's really quite funny. Where are we heading?
Yeah, when the Bible talks about homosexuality, it uses the word toeva. Toeva is like the worst kind of sin. Many people do not understand that we've been at war for many years. And it's sad that some of the people are waking up now because it's like a rude awakening. But on the shores of Uganda or Africa, the sex revolution has landed. and some of the characteristics of the sex revolution that came out of age in the America in the late 60s, where there was massive young people rebelling against their parents, a preoccupation with drugs, nudity, obscenities, and later homosexuality emerged. It's hitting the shores of Africa in our conservative, cultural, faith-based people, and we're shocked. So, but I've been speaking about it, so it's not new. How old are you, Jimmy?
I'm above 20 years.
Okay. So, Jimmy, I began talking about this issue back in 2002. 2002, 2003, I recognized that there were some people who wanted to push homosexuality on our country at Makerere University. One of those were the donors, what we call the donors. That's the European and American embassies. They were saying they were pushing homosexuality. The fellow in charge of human rights, I think human rights, reported, and the story runs, says, donors want homosexuality in Uganda, 2002. I've documented this in my book, which is right here. This is my book called Africa's Resistance to Homosexuality, okay? It's a 400-page book that talks about where did this come from. It's in 3 stages. Part 1, tracing the homosexual attack on Uganda from 1999 to 2009. That's when we came up with the anti-homosexuality bill. And then from section 2 is the anti-homosexuality bill and the global, but 2009-2014. The outrage of this conflict with Barack Obama, the battles, the siege under which Uganda's parliament was put. Then chapter 3 is, I come up with phase 3, is we thought was done, what happened, what lessons were learned. So in my research over the last 10 years, I have been warning people that this is coming, this is well organized. People actually sat down in South Africa in the year 2004 at a conference called the All Africa Conference to map out how to change Africa and make it homosexual friendly. You need to see this because you will not believe it. What you see, when a group has what is called a manifesto, this is 2004, they came up with a plan for East Africa, for West Africa, for Southern Africa. They said, what do we want? We want to change society and make homosexuality, eliminate fear in ourselves so they become bold. Educate society, target leaders and policy makers. That's why you see the leaders of homosexuals, that is Frank Mugisha and others, they are always targeting leaders and policy makers because they want to change the laws. Education over and influence over the media. That's why you see a lot of work to restrain and change. For example, the regulators got a policy of non-discrimination against homosexuality. LGBT mobilized to come out, how to change law and human rights, how to change religion and culture, how to change. So they mapped this out. Then they got funding. This is from a document called Strategies and Activities, All Africa HIV and Human Rights Symposium, February 7 to 14, 2004. So, and then who funded it? The World Bank, UNAIDS. Who came up with it? The specialist Keith Goddard is from Zimbabwe. Hans Binswanger is from South Africa. They decided that they would use HIV, AIDS, and human rights as the cover, to promote. So a lot of the work, they hijacked HIV and human rights and used it as a weapon to impose homosexuality on our country. So it's been going for the last, how many years? And the last time we pushed for the anti-homosexuality bill and it passed, but under pressure it was cancelled. The president said, "Omusota guli mu nsuwa." Now, omusota guli mu nsuwa, mugende mpola mpola go slow. It takes knowledge how to remove the snake from the what? From the pot.
And it's very funny. You can imagine how, I'm still wondering how the Church of Christ comes out to support this. I'm still imagining. I will not mention the particular religion that is spearheading, but I was surprised to see a top church leader the one they look at as maybe their second, I don't know, their second God probably on earth. Maybe they are God.
The ambassador of God on the earth.
On the earth.
Yeah.
Coming out to say it's okay to be homosexual. Where are we heading to?
Well, two things. One is homosexuality takes 4 stages, and we can look at other countries and understand how they were taken over. You can see a process of the, like cancer, there's what they call stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4 cancer. So homosexuality, the way it takes, stage 1 is called, they come up with a program called non-discrimination. It's a catchy phrase that you hear: tolerance, non-discrimination, tolerance, non-discrimination. You hear them talk about that. Don't just be tolerant. That's why you've been hearing this for a long time. Tolerant, non-discrimination. What does non-discrimination say? Discrimination comes from the word criminal. Criminal means something is illegal, illegitimate, wrong, sinful. So the church can say, because we are not under the state church. If we're under the state church, sin would also be criminal. But because we're not, what's wrong? But the root of every law is right and wrong. If you criminalize right, it's an unjust law. Like Martin Luther King said, if you have laws against black people of racism and slavery, those are illegal laws. So stage 1 is criminalize non-discrimination. They remove all the laws. They fight to remove every law against homosexuality. They say, if you have a law, they will go underground, or they will not go for HIV. They look for any argument. The second stage is they come up with, first is decriminalization, that is non-discrimination and affirmative action. Okay, I'm sorry. One is non-discrimination, then where they decriminalize. The second one is tolerance. Tolerance heading towards what they call equality, because they move from this one to equality. But equality is usually stage 3, where they said, since we are not illegal, and since we are you are supposed not to discriminate, then we should actually be what? Equal. So then you find a homosexual says, I also want to marry my man, and just as you want to marry your what? They begin to ask for equal rights for something that is illegitimate. So you hear good words like equality, you hear what? Non-discrimination. But that is stage 3. And they play on people's head, and you hear nice words. Oh, equality, equal, marriage is equal. They never use the word sodomy. They hide it. Then the final stage that they do is called affirmative action, gay pride, hate crimes. That's stage 3. What do I mean by that? They say, we've suffered so much. Give us free things. Give us free scholarships. Give us what? Number 2, gay pride. We want to march and celebrate us. Change everything to have that the history that gays are homosexuals are also great. Then the part 3 is the issue of they talk about hate crimes. That is, make laws. Jimmy, are you hearing me?
Yes, I do.
Make laws so that anybody who disagrees, any book, any faith that disagrees with the normalization of sodomy, that he has committed what is called a hate crime. And what is that? It's an extreme bad crime. It's like terrorism, murder. And so people like me who speak like this are switched off television. Books are banned that they are hateful. A parent who tells their child, a child goes to class and the teacher tells them, hey, you may be a boy, but you could be a girl. You could get gender surgery. Then the mother says, but you're a boy, what are you doing? The boy can report the parent, and then that is called a hate what? I think you missed it. It's called hate crime. Now, that stage 4 is really a crazy, other countries are on stage 4. It is us who are on stage, we're on stage 1. So when you hear the Pope say that decriminalize,
Yes.
it can be a sin, but it can't be a crime. The Pope has become a homosexual activist. And people who don't understand the first stage,
but good enough you've spoken.
No, me, I'm a special. Yes. Me, I write books. Yes. For me, I'm a scholar.
For you,
me, I'm a scholar, and I'm sharing this as a what?
I don't want to give you that.
No, me, I'm a scholar.
Share these things.
So
that way,
me, I'm a scholar. So what we've seen that when someone says remove the laws, but it's not the only one. It is also the Church of England.
Yes.
Yeah, the Canterbury. You see, for us, we are embarrassed. Like, wow, how can such a church? How can? Kumbe, these people have already been going through state. Yes. They have been captured.
And for us, are you people safe? The born again faith.
No, even the born again. Look, every group is going to have to battle this. Why? Because people have sat down. They have drawn a map that they should recreate a new Christianity, where that they want to have gay affirming Christianity. So people like me, we are labeled bad names. We are homophobic, chimanya bichi bichi. They don't invite us. They don't invite us to
discriminated.
They want those gay loving, homosexual loving pastors. Look, it is clear. I want you to see, how do you want to change religion and culture? Greater awareness of LGBT issue, tolerance and accepting of homosexual people, change in the doctrine of religious institutions to accept that homosexuals, as much others, are children of God, created in his image. 4, religious institutions involved in bringing about a change in attitude to LGBT worship groups. Now,
as wind up that, how prepared are you to curb down this vice in Uganda?
Well, I am.
The body of Christ.
I am. I think that I've been speaking, and I've spent the last 20 years and 8 years preparing books. I've written books. I'm a leading authority. If you see me debate with homosexuals and their theology, I'm able to floor them. Okay? Bring them. And I know that they have infiltrated us. But I've written a book of how to protect your child from homosexuality. I've written a book of Africa's resistance from homosexuality. I'm the leading scholar on this issue. But I'll tell you why. Just as you didn't find, but I was going to go dig. There is no funding. Because in government, there is no specific area where this issue is addressed. Is it addressed in the Ministry of Gender? The answer is no. There is no department of dealing with this issue of family. Is it addressed in Ministry of Ethics and Integrity? No. Those ones are dealing with corruption. Okay? Even Lokodo, whenever we talk about homosexuality, he didn't have a fund. He was just speaking nicely. The truth is, we do not have a system to respond to the level. So I want you to go and tell President Museveni, because you see in Uganda, people have a problem. And you struggle. Professor Ogwang, the one of Covidex, was here, had done research. Those trees, by the way, you see those green trees?
Yes.
Those are the Covidex trees. I planted them 10 years ago. I supplied him with some of that. Now, Professor Ogwang was here, coming up with a treatment to support the treatment of what? COVID. But do you remember how he was being fought?
I do.
University, bazungu, bichi. There was no, until President called him and said, Ogwang, come. Gave him security, go finish your research and help. Then he came up with Covidex, which has helped Uganda dealing with what?
The COVID-19.
This issue of homosexuality is also like COVID. It is in every soap opera. It is in every video chibanda. It is in schools. It is in sports. It is in education curriculum. It is in HIV. It is in human rights. It is in business protocols, international meetings. Now, I am one of those who has written extensively, but I need to talk to the president so he can support me.
And you can do that.
So, those of you who have the ability to reach to the president, tell him, Your Excellency, Dr. Ssempa is like Professor Ogwang. He needs you to support him to finish his research so that he can come up with sodomics.
I'm waiting for sodomics. I love that. I love sodomics.
Sodomics. We need to. You see, I came up with a concept called straight nation. Straight nation, Ojiraba. This is my Covidex. Straight nation. Why? Homosexuals cannot accept anybody apart from them or someone who's straight, because for them they come up with a new language. It's a whole new language. We are gay, lesbians, bisexuals, transgenders. Having worked with them, I realized the only way for them to understand us is if you come up with a brand of the name that they can. So I came up with a brand called Straight what?
Nation.
Straight. If you meet a lesbian who says, hi, I met one who was Pepe. Hi, I'm Pepe, I'm a proud lesbian. Kati, when you say, oh, how do you respond to that? Hey, man, thank you for, how do you do sex? You use the, there is no, people are unprepared on how to respond. Even if you say, I'm a Christian, the other is talking about sexual family preference or this plan, you are now talking religion. Mudi kubintu bibiri. You may even say, I'm African, because Africans oppose that. You are on different issues. But now, you need to come and say, look, I'm straight nation. You are a gay. Me, I'm straight nation. So number one, I came up with a brand that makes us visible. Otherwise, you become tongue-tied. Number two, the purpose of, apart from being visible, one of the goals is making visible. Number two is to defend marriage that is based on man and woman. That is goal number two.
And on that very note, there are some pastors. There's a pastor, a prominent pastor in Kampala, who is against marriage, holy marriage. He feels like you can do whatever you want. You can break up with your woman and you get another lady.
That's very sad.
What's your take about that?
Which is why,
amongst 5 years.
Yes, amongst the activities of part two, is that we need President Museveni to set aside a cabinet ministry of marriage and family. Because that will be responsible for defending and promoting straight nation. We don't need a law against homosexuality. No, we need a ministry of marriage and family that will do it. You see, you do not exist, like for me, I don't exist as an anti-gay. I exist as a marriage family promoter. If you find a tomato grower with a pump, ngava kufuyira fungus, do you call him that he's a professional, is an anti-fungalist? Or is he a tomato grower? He's a what? He's a farmer. Now, our goal, we don't exist to fight sodomy. We exist to build marriages.
And you didn't talk about your family, Pastor Ssempa. Are you married? Do you have children? How many children do you have?
Yes, I am married, and that is part of this. That is why we need to teach marriage. I have 5 children. Yes, but let me finish this issue. When you defend the number 3, you redeem. There are people who are into homosexuality, boys and girls who have gotten in, who need to be brought back. We need a rehabilitation center.
Yes, we do.
Some there are things that they have damaged. They are the things behind.
They wear pampers.
We need to help them. But is our country going? We can hardly even pay for menstrual pads, which is a normal experience of women. Where are we going to get nappies? Chitegera, we can't have. Yes. Number 4. We need to, I talked about articulate, make visible. I talked about defend. I talked about rehabilitation in terms of those who have been what? Damaged. And then the final stage that we need to do is we need to move forward and advance a marriage-based culture. We need now every group needs to ask, how is UBC strengthening a marriage-based culture? How is university strengthening a marriage-based culture? In the same way, it's my gender. We need to switch that aside and say, no, we want to know, how is the army? How is the police? How is city council? How is the school building a marriage-based culture? And in that way, we are going to phase out some of the things we have now. Single-sex schools, How are single-sex schools contribute to the marriage-based culture? When Kasasa Secondary School was a single-sex school, every 3 months we had a story in the news, homosexuals dismissed, 20, 30, 10. When they turned Kasasa into a mixed school, have you heard from them?
Have not.
Because you cannot allow a boy to come of age.
You're against single-sex schools.
Yes, they need to be phased out. They need to be
Really?
developed into mixed schools.
You've gone to one. You're Ngonian.
Yes, from Namilyango.
But you're not one.
I would have been a better person. Look, I was telling Kasuku the other day, the first time I danced with a girl in Rubaga Boys. Remember, it was Rubaga what? Boys. They also mixed what? Mixed. It is wrong to have bull dances.
Actually, we used to have bull dances.
Exactly. Look at you. You need to have a dance between a boy and a girl. You have girls' school having cow dances. You find a girl senior 6, senior 5 dancing with a girl, recruiting. If the development, the sexual development of boys in adolescence to teenagehood must be in a gender-balanced environment. We can't have gender-balanced LOC, gender-balanced parliament, gender-balanced what? Then the schools are not gender-balanced. So, you see, for me, I'm a thinker. So in the final stage of what I want to do, I want to give my phone number. I know people may want to support the work that I am doing. I'm looking that maybe we can be able to get people who can give some 10,000 shillings to Pastor Ssempa on a monthly basis. You can be there and you say, Pastor, kankuteke yo mtwalo. What I'm planning, I'm working to raise 1,000 friends of Straight Nation.
1,000.
Who can give? Thank you. Who can give 10,000 shillings a month? So that if I have those 1,000, I can now be able to travel. I can now go to Bweranyanji, Ntare, Tororo, Namilyango, Budo, and take this gospel. I can be able to work and finalize on printing my books. I have several books that I have and get them out. So, but also,
let's summarize.
Yeah, that is it. So we need, I'm looking to do that. Let me give my number. My number is 0772 641028. It's on WhatsApp. You can also reach me. It's 0772 641028. You can share with me if you have any issues having to do with Straight Nation, issues having to do even with other issues that I've talked about here. Yeah.
Actually, the way I've listened to you, that topic is so wide. I think we need to get another day and we get a detailed story of that homosexuality. I think.
Oh no, you've done great, story. Jimmy.
Yes.
Listen, I want to tell you, you've done great.
Yes.
Okay, you've done what?
Great.
I'm proud of you. I know you had 20 questions there, but I've answered most of them.
Yes, you have.
Yeah, and the chance you gave me, asking me about everything, you've had stories about my wife. You had stories about my children. So do not feel bad that you didn't have the normal.
No, it's
welcome, dear viewers. Pastor, can you tell us what is your wife's name? And how many children do you have? No. We've already gone through that.
Yes, so, Pastor Ssempa, how have you formed the ministry for the last over 20 years we've been actively involved?
Well, I think I'll share about that in my next visit with you. Right now, my words are over. I'm tired of talking. I want now to go. I have other things I need to do.
Maybe
I told you I have many things to do. 30
seconds.
No, I'm finished. I have other people that I have to go to.
So you want to end the show here? No,
I don't want to end the show. You bring me back another time. Hey, I know that your people want to hear from Pastor Ssempa and you're asking me.
But as wind up Pastor Ssempa, let us talk about something that is also causing a lot of debates outside there. Where we are seeing servants of God leaving their wives, getting other wives. How do the believers receive? Okay, look at this.
That's very good. I'll answer that.
Don't even wait.
I will answer that in my next show.
Next show.
Yeah.
Okay, so Pastor Ssempa.
Yeah.
How can I wind up this show? I had a lot for you.
Yeah.
But I can't go minus asking you this question. What are your hobbies? What do you do in your free time? I'll
answer that in my next show.
Pastor Ssempa, come on. Okay, it's well. We can arrange. We have it probably as soon as possible. Do you have any regret in life, Pastor Ssempa?
I will answer that in my next show.
All right. Pastor Ssempa, thank you very much for sparing your time to be on the Holy Drive show. I must say I've been honored to have you on this amazing show.
You done great. I'm glad that you hosted me over here. Many greetings to all our watchers and viewers and friends. May God bless you. May God prosper you. May God enlarge your territory. May He protect you. May He protect our next generation as we deal with the battles, poverty, HIV, homosexualism, all these divisive stuff. May God bless you. And if you want to reach out to me again, my number is 0772 6410 28. God bless you.
Thank you so much. We've come to the end of the show. I want to appreciate my producers, Hafiz and Mose, that have been part of this production, without forgetting the man called Mahad, Shortcut, known as Shortcut. He's a very great gentleman. If you want to record your music, you want to have some good production, you can reach out to Shortcut. I can't go minus appreciating Hash Suits at California Plaza IL50. You can get him on 0705 693 428. And of Moose at Capital Center RD15 is on 0708894353. Without forgetting Damas is the best hairstylist around Kampala. Is on 0702756084. I usually have a lot to say, but today I've run out of words because a lot I've learned and a lot I'm going to also go out there and also, spread the gospel.
That's right.
Today. It's been a unique show. We usually come here, we talk about where you came from, but today we've chosen to talk about homosexuality. There is a quote I love so much, and says, one can pay back a loan of gold, but one dies forever in debt to those who are kind. Whoever is kind to you, there's nothing you can ever pay back to someone who is kind to you. But rather, you have to just thank God and also do the same to the rest. When such a minister of the gospel comes out to condemn such, he's not a bad person, but he's trying to save someone that maybe was about to fall into this. There are so many kids, Pastor, by the way, who fall into such kind of practices without even their knowledge. Your friends are there, sweet talk you, they give you some little money, in the long run, you fall a victim of this. But we thank God to have ministers like you who are defending the body of Christ and the word of God. How I pray we remain like this. We get more leaders on board to spearhead this gospel than having a few of you when the rest are also silently there. Yet they can also join the rest. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. I'm Jimmy Hanks as usual. I want to appreciate you all for loving us. Keep on subscribing. In case you cannot watch us live on TV, you can go on the YouTube channel and you type the Holy Drive Show. You'll get us there with all the shows, all the episodes that we usually have. I love you so much. I must say, akumei hata kuminampeda.